The RV Show USA is brought to you by Rockwood, building better RVs, making smarter RVers.
And I want to remind everybody that we do this every single Wednesday starting at 7 p.m. Central Time. If you are watching on YouTube, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. Watching on Facebook, give us a big old like. Make sure your notifications are turned on. I posted a video a couple of days ago asking people what they thought was the most stressful part of RVing for them. We got a lot of input. Now, camping and RVing, believe it or not, is not meant to be stressful, but it is for a lot of people. At least parts of it is. Now, not so much for the folks who are on our guest line right now. How are Tony and Peggy doing?
We are doing fantastic. Hello, Alan. How are you?
Howdy. So, okay, what's the deal with the wardrobe, you guys?
Well, we always enjoy your show, and I love your shirts, and I thought, I'm going to wear my pink flamingo shirt in honor of stressless camping, and then I see you've got a pink flamingo shirt this week.
Well, hey, we're coordinated, right? Look at that. Look at this.
Hi.
Look at your microphones, man. Y'all got a nice setup over there.
This is our podcast setup, too, and so we can connect it to the phone, and I'm a huge geek. So,
all right. So, folks, we've got Tony and Peggy Barthel on the line with us, and we're actually just recent friends. We met online through Facebook, and have so much in common. And they do a podcast we're going to hear about here in just a little bit. But they have a website that I found very, very interesting called stresslesscamping.com. So, before we jump into the website, why don't you introduce yourselves and tell everybody a little bit of your background.
Well, all right. How about if I start?
Okay.
My name's Tony. Obviously, I have been an RV aficionado since I was a kid, and I told Alan on the podcast I bought my first RV when I was 12, and it's sitting behind me.
I see
so
it.
I was such a RV enthusiast. I bought a toy RV, and that thing, was my favorite toy. And then I went to work in the RV industry and worked at a dealership where I handled both sales and warranties. And so that was interesting. And Peggy?
I was conceived camping. So I've been camping my whole entire life with family, friends, through school, and every conceivable method of camping. And including, I also worked for a company that made travel trailers when I was just out of high school.
Now, y'all are not full-time RVers. You're part-timers. Are you working towards going full-time, or do you tell me a little bit about that?
We like doing it, how about most time?
Most time, yeah.
So we still have things that keep us here. And we like having our sticks and bricks because we just, like so many Americans, have too much junk.
Too much junk. I'm not ready to give up all my junk.
Yeah, yeah. I resemble that, that's for sure. So, okay. So was camping always stress less for Tony and Peggy, or were there times, and are there times when it's stressful camping?
There are still some times that things can go wrong and it can be stressful. I was going on a girl camp out one time, and we had some problems with the plug between the truck and the camper, and it locked the brakes of the trailer brakes, and I couldn't go anywhere.
That was my fault.
And then I went and got that fixed, and then I set up in the rain. It was my first time backing into a site, so it was a learning experience and a fun story to tell.
It had been raining quite a bit, and I had the camper a week before to go to an automotive-related new mouth, it's not working, an automotive-related event, and it had been pouring, and when I unhooked the camper, the last thing I forgot to unhook was the 7-pin, and I literally yanked it right out of the bumper when I moved the truck. So.
I think that one of the biggest things, one pieces of advice I give to RVers is you have to have a sense of flexibility, because if you have to have it your way and everything has to go perfectly, you're probably not going to like RVing very much. You need to be a pretty flexible person and be able to adapt to changing conditions. Would you say that's an accurate statement?
Yeah, because as John and Kathy Huggins used to say, our plans are made in Jell-O. And it's such an accurate thing, because let's say you you're on a road trip and your plan is to stay in spot A, but it happens to be full or there's a problem with the reservation or whatever, just keep going. I mean, you have everything you need with you, and so there you go. I think one of the things I had mentioned that I neglected to unplug the 7-pin. And one of the things that has really been a cornerstone of making our RV experience stressless is lists. We are just the king of lists.
We have a list for everything.
We have a list for everything. And when you go down that list and follow it, you know, all of the things that you're likely to encounter because they're written in the list. And you know if you've checked off those items, then it really makes a huge difference in how stressful or stressless the camping experience can be. And that's, you know, hooking, unhooking, backing.
Let's talk about some of the most common things that people get stressed out about. What things do you hear?
Backing up.
Backing up is one of the most common stresses and worries and concerns and things that, you know, keep people from moving forward is they don't know what to do and they are afraid and they won't get started because they're afraid.
Well, wait, they're afraid to move forward because of backing up?
Because of backing up.
So your advice is have a pull-through site. That's your advice, right?
Well, that's the easy way.
There was a comment in the Facebook group earlier when you had announced this, and one of the people said, I have issues with backing into a site when I'm by myself on the blind spot. And what has worked for me is I take a battery-powered lantern and I'll put it in a corner so I look up and make sure I'm not going to hit a tree or a branch or anything like that. So I have the lantern there, and as I'm backing up, there's my target for the corner of the trailer. And so, and it obviously sits below the trailer, so that has helped me when I'm backing and I'm just by myself. There was a lady who I worked with when I was in sales, and this lady was visiting our dealership for over a year, and her big fear was to back up. And I said, well, I can teach you how to back up. And so what we did is we got a bunch of red Solo cups, and we kind of made the outline of a campsite, and she got to practice backing up her trailer before she bought it. And if she hit the cup, then she knew she was off target. But it turned out this lady whose big fear was backing up, she was an ace at it. She was good.
She can teach me.
That's a good idea. Find a big old parking lot on a weekend where there's not many people there and go set out your own obstacle course.
Yep.
Yeah.
And with something like Solo cups or something that if you run over it, you're so what? Throw it away and start again. You know, it's not the pedestal at the campground or a tree or something that's going to cause significant damage.
Right. And when you run over those cups, if you have your windows down in your tow vehicle, it makes a pretty good sound. So you know you've hit it, and you know, okay, I'm off.
As long as you don't hear a scream with it, you're probably all right. So, all right. So one of my, I got to confess something. One of the things I get stressed out over is just the whole packing and getting ready and making sure, even though I have lists, when we leave the house, did I close the garage? And I always have to go back around, did I close the garage? I'm just constantly second-guessing myself, and I'm pretty uptight until I get to my destination, and then I can relax. But the most stressful part of me is just getting everything together and just getting there and not forgetting anything.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, you're lock the doors. Do you check your truck twice when you're in a parking lot to make sure the doors are locked?
Always.
Okay. So I have friends who are similar. So it's just then that's a reality, and we all have to understand ourselves and what motivates us or what challenges us. And so maybe a list of all the things, doors locked and all that, and you go down the list and that might help.
So maybe that checklist actually is a printed checklist. So you actually physically lock the thing, scratch it off the list. Like we do a lot of things with our phone, and we go, okay, we have this list, and these are the things that are on it. And before we pull out, we read the list again and make sure we did it all.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe the physical, actual marking something off makes you go, oh, yeah, I know I did it because I remember marking it off, looking for the pin while I was doing it.
Do you ever forget where you put your list?
Luckily, ours are all in our phone, and they're kind of in the cloud. So when I write a list, he can read it, and it works for grocery shopping too.
Yeah. If she adds beer to the grocery list, I make sure I don't forget it. Like I'd forget that.
Hey, folks, we're talking with Tony and Peggy Barthel. They're with StresslessCamping.com. They've got a great podcast. They're avid RVers. They are, I guess, Tony, you're the owner of a beautiful Rockwood travel trailer. Tell us a little bit about that and how and
Right.
the Facebook group you started, because it's really blown up.
Yeah. So what happened is I did a lot of research. For Peggy, I dragged her to look at over 100 RVs when we were deciding what to get. And ultimately, after the research and such, we ended up with a Rockwood Mini Light travel trailer. And that was almost 4 years ago. It's been terrific. And when I first got it, I thought, there's not really a Facebook group, so we can talk if I have issues or if I have questions or whatnot. So I'll start one at Rockwood Mini Light Fan Club. We're at almost 5,000 people now.
We had one friend locally that we knew also owned a Mini Light, and so we said, hey, Joe, you want to be in a group with us? And we figured it'd just be the two of us talking.
Yeah, maybe 5 people, and it ends up this huge group, and it's a really great resource. There are some people there who are just really knowledgeable.
Yes.
And we have, to Rockwood's credit, there's a lot of their factory people who are in the group monitoring it. So some of the changes, the positive changes to the trailers come from suggestions in that group.
I love that. For the last couple of years, about 2 years ago, I started harping on the industry a lot. And I went to the first open house this last, September, I guess, up in Indiana. And I just knew what I was going to walk into with all these sleazy manufacturers and crooked people. And I was so blown away at the qualities. There's some really good people in this RV industry. And I felt so embarrassed about some of the positions that I had taken. And I'm not a spokesperson, as I say, for Rockwood or Flagstaff, and they're not an advertiser. But they're really good people, and they do care. And I see in your group of 5,000 people, most of those people are in love with their little travel trailer. And that's a testament to a really good, well-made product and good people.
Right.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's funny, having worked at the dealership, there are a lot of brands where designers or reps or people in charge, so let's just say, they never go camping. That's not true of the Rockwood Group. I believe everyone I've come across is an enthusiast, is a camper.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do it's like being in charge of a chocolate factory and never eating any chocolate. You got to eat the chocolate.
Amen. All right. So we posted that question out there on social media and got a lot of people telling us what the most stressful part of camping was for them. A lady named Kathy Marcy said that not knowing if she was going to have a decent, safe place to boondock for the night. And I think for women, that's a really very real concern, isn't it, Peggy?
Yeah, I think it is. I don't boondock alone. Being, I guess, part-time means I don't have to be out there on the road. So if I go out without Tony, it's because I already have a destination in mind and I know where I'm going. But I think that would be pretty stressful for me as well, not being really sure where I was going to end up or what kind of area I would be in.
Well, we talked with Ginny, who's a former law enforcement. She was a law enforcement officer and a probation officer and is an avid camper. And she had some good tips for that sort of thing, boondocking, solo woman boondocking by yourself. Of course, if you're a solo woman.
Solo by yourself.
And things like situational awareness is a big thing. So just kind of know your surroundings, know what's going on. Trust your gut. That was another suggestion that she had. Just be aware. It's those kind of things can make a big difference for any solo camper, but the solo women. One of the myths that she said is common is put a big pair of work boots outside your trailer. But I don't go camping in work boots.
Right.
I do go camping in flip-flops, and so maybe buy a large set of tennis shoes or flip-flops or something that you'd find normally at a campground and put those outside your door. That might help a little bit. And just, again, situational awareness is probably your biggest asset.
You know, we've had a campground in Central Texas. My wife and I own one. We've had it for, I think, 6 years now. Knock on wood, not one report ever in 6 years of anything ever being stolen from a campsite, from somebody's boat they had parked there and left it. And we don't take responsibility for somebody leaves their boat out or anything out of their vehicle, but nobody. I mean, RVers in general are such good people. They watch out for each other. At the same time, though, like you said, Tony, situational awareness, we got to be on guard all the time today, I think more than ever. But campers are pretty safe people in general. At least that's my thought. I want to ask you your thoughts on because you were working in the industry. You know an awful lot about RVs, and you know how many people are getting into RVing nowadays. What are your thoughts when you look into the future? Is everything bright and rosy with all these new people coming in? Do you see any concerns as you look at the industry and more and more people getting into RVing? What are your thoughts?
Well, there is already a shortage of campgrounds. However, that can be alleviated with things like harvest hosts and boondockers welcome and just general boondocking. So that's one option. Just hopefully more farm stays, that kind of thing. So there will probably be a continued shortage of camping spaces if you're talking just traditional campgrounds. But there are some great alternatives. I think the biggest thing for new RVers or any RVer is rather than find an RV first and go buy that, I would suggest establish a relationship with a dealership first. Find people who seem to care, like RV Nana. You had RV Nana. Everything she said, I completely agree with.
Yep.
So find a great dealership and people who you can really trust and work well with, and that is a good starting place for any RV, whether it's new or used.
And all RVs are not built that they may look similar, but they're not the same. There is quality out there,
right.
but you've got to find that quality. And you know, Tony, did you see the one, or Peggy, that somebody was talking about a brand new RV, and many of them still have sawdust on the floor and little pieces of wire. They're not even cleaned up.
I saw that,
yeah.
and that goes back to that comment about the dealership. When you buy a new car, you go to the dealership, you see the car, you go through the financing if you have to, and then you're off in that car that same day. With an RV, there's what's called a pre-delivery inspection, where the RV dealer will actually test out all the systems, clean it up, make sure that it's ready. If they're a great dealer, usually fill the propane, make sure all of the systems are working. And those places where you're finding sawdust and such, when you're camping, I don't think the dealer did their job. I mean, that's the bottom line, because as we've said, an RV is basically a 4.5 earthquake going through a hurricane, right?
Yeah.
And things do shake loose, but details and sawdust and things like that, you shouldn't really be finding an abundance of that.
After when you've taken it out, once you've taken it from the dealership.
Because once you roll away from the dealership, getting them to do something at that point, you've given all the power back over to the dealer. And the only time you have power is before you sign on the dotted line. And, I'm not trying to be a jerk about it, but if something is left like that, if a dealer is willing to sell you something that's not even finished, not even ready, what else that you don't know have they not done?
Yeah.
And
right.
The comment recently in a Facebook group where they got to the campsite and their water pump didn't work, and I thought, didn't the dealer test that? But apparently not. And so make sure that they run all the systems: heater, air conditioner, all the electronics, the water system, the water heater, the refrigerator, et cetera, et cetera.
So it sounds like to me the brand of RV is important, but it's also that relationship that you establish with the dealer. And if somebody rushes in and buys the first RV, they look at it because it's pretty and it's shiny and they're just so excited. I say that 99 times out of 100, they're probably making a mistake. They got to take their time, slow down, get references, check reviews, because they're not just buying the RV, they're buying that relationship with the dealer.
Yeah,
right.
Look at the reviews online. It's usually quite telling. And as you said, RV Nana has great reviews. I just listening to her talk, she sounds like she really knows what she's doing and takes care of people. But that's not true of all dealers. And I do like the smaller family-owned dealers.
And a lot of people are surprised to find out after they leave and they've driven, 17 hours to get that RV that they wanted from that dealership, and then they get home and they want something done by a dealer. They're really surprised that the dealer, you need to have purchased that RV from that dealer for the most part. It's not like a Chevrolet where you can go to any Chevrolet dealer. The dealerships themselves have their hands full already with the units that they are buying or that they are selling and that they have sold. And a lot of people think it's unfair and it's wrong, but it's the way it is, and people should know that.
And part of that goes back to there is kids, if you're listening today and you're pretty good with your hands, be an RV tech because you've got a guaranteed job. And
Absolutely.
the RVIA has
Yes.
they have a school. If you don't know all the ins and outs, there's a school that they have. And
because there's such a shortage of tech.
And so it brings on things like dealers not wanting to work on things that weren't purchased there. Because I know at our dealer, our techs could barely keep up with just what we sold. And then to have someone, go to some place and buy the RV for $500 less and then come to us and say, hey, we want this fixed.
Your thoughts, your comments, Tony, about if some young people or maybe even not so young people are looking for something where they can make a decent living, have a good time, work with good people, and in an industry that we need good people, it's being RV tech. You are right, and
Yeah.
you can write your own ticket. You can be there's people that have they're RV inspectors. You can start your own small business with that. You can be a technician. There's all kinds of opportunities in this field, and I see that that's just going to get better and better as more and more people buy RVs.
Oh yeah, if you let's say you want to travel and you're good with your hands and whatnot, get a van and put a magnetic sign on the side that says RV Tech if you have the qualifications, obviously. No one will leave you alone at the campground. And the reason I said a magnetic sign, if you just want a vacation, you're going to pull that sign off.
Yeah.
But if you have says RV Tech on your vehicle and you show up at a campground, they'll be knocking on your door.
Yeah.
All right. So a couple of other things people wanted to talk about that they said they were stressed out about, and this stresses me out, is wind, especially out there out west, Wyoming and out places out west. That wind can really get howling, and that's scary when it blows up on you and you're dragging a travel trailer or something. What do you do about that? I mean, I know that what you do is you be careful you don't drive very fast in that wind or don't drive at all, but good grief, that's a scary deal.
Yeah, well, one of the first things that I do is I look at what the truckers are doing because they're facing the same thing. If you see a highway that's got a lot of trucks typically, and they're all sitting at the truck stop, that's a good suggestion.
Yeah.
Because they know that it's windy and they've communicated with one another. Check the weather, and if you do happen to find yourself in a place that has gusts, slow down. You're on vacation.
Yeah.
And use your sway.
Yeah, well, if you have a travel trailer and I sway hitch and such.
Yeah.
But slowing down can make a big difference. If you're just speeding along and all of a sudden the wind hits you, and obviously an RV is a gigantic barn that's flat on all sides, that could you'll end up on YouTube.
We have delayed a trip one time because the wind was going to be so bad in Southern California that we put our departure off for a day or two so that we could wait out the wind and travel safely.
Yeah, So sometimes you just have to wait a day longer or so for the wind to subside.
All right, so listen, we're going to kind of wrap this up. Before we do, I want you to give me the 1 minute pitch about your great podcast, because you're both you guys are so calm and so smooth and so stress free. Tell us about your podcast.
Well, our podcast is basically about stressless camping. What we try to do is find information and tips to help people enjoy the experience more and take the stress out. And, of course, it's free to subscribe, and you can see it on our website, as well as articles that we write and videos that we do and all of that. And we just try to help people relax.
One last question.
We do try to
question.
We do try to find topics or guests that can give information. Like if we come up with a topic that, like, I don't know, how to take care of your black tank or something,
Mm-hmm.
then we cover that topic, or we try to find a guest that is an expert in that kind of topic, so that we get good information out there.
My last question is, I want you to tell me about your. This is a relationship question. Not all couples can be happy campers and RVers together. It can bring out the best in people and the worst in people. What kind of advice do you have for couples that have never really done this before, that are kind of going, I don't know if we can really be successful at this? What kind of advice would you give them?
Sit down and talk to one another and know what your pain points are, and then work through those.
It might be a good idea to practice with a borrowed or a rented RV first, because some people think it's going to be fantastic, and they don't realize how small that little hallway is that you're going to be living in. We do great. We get along really well. Even in our 19-foot trailer, we have our own kind of space, and we just have a lot in common, so we get along well. But it is a good idea to know ahead of time before you just sell the house, buy an RV, and take off on the road, and then find out it wasn't for you.
Great advice. Great advice. So, all right. So, what is the call to action if we're going to send our listeners and viewers one place to find out more? Do we send them to your website?
Yes, please. It's stresslesscamping.com, and from there you can find us on social media and all the other places.
All right. Well, thank you all so much. I appreciate you spending some time with us tonight and visiting with me on the radio the other day. And I look forward to bumping into y'all sometime down the road, okay?
Well,
Terrific.
we will come to the campground at some point. We were supposed to have been in Texas and Oklahoma. And
Last week.
Yeah. But
really? Well, we're in
Someday
Texas. I'd
soon.
love to host you, and we'll get you back on again. So thank you so much for the tips, and best of luck. Have a great summer.
I will
Thank
look
you, Alan.
forward to
Thanks
that.
so
And thank
much.
you, Alan.
All right, you take care. All right, folks, if you haven't done so on YouTube, I want you to subscribe to our channel if you would. Hit the, the thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button. If you're watching on Facebook, hit the like button, the thumbs up over there. Make sure your notifications are turned on. Once again, Tony and Peggy Barthel, it's stresslesscamping.com. Put it all together, stresslesscamping.com. Really calm people who get along really well, have some great advice. If you've got a Rockwood Mini Light, you may want to jump over and join Tony's group. There's a lot of really good information over there. Let's see. We do this every single Wednesday night. I want to thank everybody for being a part of our program. Tell your friends about us. We start at 7 p.m. Central Time on Wednesdays. Next week, we're going to start a few minutes early. My friend Janine Pettit has got a giant announcement. She's going to make it right here on the RV Show USA. We're going to start probably 10, 15 minutes early next Wednesday with Janine. So it's a great big announcement. You will not want to miss it. Let's see. You can also catch our radio show on great radio stations around the country, including our newest affiliate in Brownwood, Texas, KXYL, Rex Tackett station over there. And, of course, you can catch our podcast of the radio show commercial-free on Google, iTunes, Stitcher, all that kind of good stuff. Let's see. What have we got? I want to thank our great sponsors. Without them, we wouldn't have the show. Without the show, we wouldn't have you. It's a beautiful thing. We'd like to invite you to give our sponsors the opportunity to earn your business. PPL Motorhomes and Diana, RV Nana, as she's known by tens of thousands of people, they don't come any finer than Diana. Cheyenne Camping Center and RV Station, man, I love them. I love them both. They're so good. And I hope you'll really think about doing business with good people. Don't fall for a low price and some come on. Don't fall for a big, fancy, multi-jillion-dollar facility. Somebody's got to pay for that. Try to support the mom-and-pop business. Try to support locally. Try to do your very best to develop a relationship with a dealer, because I promise you, as much as you don't want to, you're going to have to go back to that dealer at some point in the future. And having that relationship is going to be super, super important. So anyway, thank you all for being with us. Tell your friends about us. Join us next time. Until next week, I'm Alan Warren, the RV Wingman. Be safe, have fun, play nice, and don't leave your good manners at home. So long, everybody.